those Matric results, of course, being quite significant today and certainly are our breaking news story. So let's get straight into them now and try and get an analysis of those results. We're joined, of course, by Senior Research Associate Professor Mary Metcalfe, live from our Cape Town studios. Professor, we appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so much for it. It's been an interesting set of results there. What do you make really of that number? 78.2, yes, an improvement of 3.1% or 79.4% there as well. What do you make of that? How big an improvement is that in the context of the way things have been in South Africa?
Thanks very much, Arabile. I think that we need always to look at the year-on-year improvements or non-improvement in the broader trend of improvement of NSC results. And in fact, I think this is a significant improvement because over the last 8 years or so, the average has been about 73%. So this is showing that the trend of an improved NEC result is continuing. But we, I think, do ourselves a disservice if we don't interrogate what the figure means and how it relates to the entire education system. So, for example, I think Gauteng has done very well because not only did it get a very good overall pass rate of 87.9%, but it also is one of the provinces that has one of the highest retention rates. Nearly 60% of learners who start school in Gauteng complete and reach grade 12 and write the NSC, whereas some of the other provinces that have done very well have a much lower retention rate. I believe that we should be going for not only an improved NSC pass rate, but more learners reaching NSC and succeeding.
Yeah, one would ask the question then, we had the likes of a decrease in maths enrollment, however, for the year. Yes, we did see a large number of distinctions, particularly in accounting, which was better. Mathematics as well saw 5,828 distinctions compared to 6,726. This is the area we had worked on, even gotten a minister for science and technology to try and help in this regard, and yet things continue to go from bad to worse here. How do we make an inroad into those figures?
We need, first of all, to look at what's happening in our primary schools. And the TIMS International Survey of Maths Performance showed that I think in our grade 6 learners in 2015, only let me just quickly check the figure. Yeah, it was 61% of grade 5 learners were able to do simple number operations, addition and subtraction. If we don't get maths teaching right from the foundation phase and through the primary school, we're not going to be able to address the increase in maths performance that we need to grow the skills of the country in terms of science and technology. At the same time, I'm not one of the people who dismisses the importance of maths literacy. I think that the country is doing very well, and it's a great advance on what we had in the past, because all learners have to do either maths, pure maths, or to do maths literacy. And even though the figures doing maths are not as high as we would like, maths literacy is very important for functioning in society. And many people who are critical of maths literacy would probably be surprised at how demanding the questions are.
Yeah, that is certainly an interesting one there on that front, Professor. I also wanted to then talk about when we come to provincial sort of numbers. The Eastern Cape seeing that massive increase there of around 5.6%, if I'm not mistaken, finally above that 70% mark, a big improvement. How are we getting that infrastructure rolling out, not just to the Eastern Cape, but across the country?
Well, what's interesting about the Eastern Cape is that it shares some features in common with Limpopo and KwaZulu-Natal. Those three provinces inherited 10 Bantustans in 94. And if you look at the patterns of poverty and the patterns of education performance, they still are deeply influenced by that legacy of apartheid. So those three provinces account for 62% of learners in the country. They're the three provinces with the lowest NSC results, and in the case of Limpopo and Eastern Cape, the highest number of dropouts. But they're also the provinces with the poorest infrastructure, the greatest challenges in terms of multi-grade classrooms, the provinces where more children than in other provinces don't have textbooks, and I think that they also don't have the same ratio of support for schools that we see in some of the better endowed provinces. Those three provinces need urgent attention.
Then is it fair then to be comparing rural South Africa with regards to education to urban South Africa when it comes to education? The likes of the Eastern Cape certainly do have a whole lot more rural, shall we say, education streams, while obviously the likes of Gauteng will certainly have a whole lot more urban. And the infrastructure is certainly different. So is it fair really to be comparing the two?
I don't like this sense of celebrating that a province came top or another province didn't come top. At the level of Gauteng, Free State, Western Cape, and increasingly Northwest, the differences are marginal. Gauteng did better than Free State by a matter of 0.4%. Now, that competition is not what the country should be about. We need to move away from celebrating individual provinces to looking at the national picture. And the national picture is that we lose more than 50% of our learners who leave school without any certificate to hold, to move into the workplace, to move into their life with a sense of achievement. And that is something of a tragedy. I don't want to detract from the joy and the celebration of all of those learners that have done so well. Those districts like Vasile Dabi who has done so well. But we need to not see this as one province came top, but how is the country doing? And the country is not doing as well as we need it to.
Yeah, that's certainly one thing to note. Western Cape then achieving, yes, a pass rate of 81.5%, but it is a decline compared to last year. One would have thought that perhaps South Africa's second most urbanized area would have perhaps gotten an improvement. Is there perhaps something we can point towards for that decrease there?
No, I think that we read too much into these small adjustments of 1% up and 1% down, and I think it comes from this idea that we're looking at high performance competitiveness. Those provinces are doing well. The Western Cape has consistently been in the top 3 provinces for the last 8-9 years. It's doing fine. What we need to be looking at is saying there's at least 3 provinces that vie for the top position. There's provinces such as Mpumalanga Northwest that are doing very well. And then what's the big picture nationally? And we mustn't be distracted from that. How are our learners doing in terms of reading in grade 4? We know that only 22% of our learners can read for meaning in grade 4. We know that the National Development Plan says that all learners must be able to read and do fundamental numeracy by the end of grade 3. That has to be the priority. And instead of measuring did we get 78 or 79 or 90 or 80, we should be saying, have we increased the number of learners who can read with meaning in grade 3, grade 4, grade 5? Because that base in primary school will build success in secondary school and build success not only in the National Senior Certificate, but in the confidence that young people have and a sense of belonging to society and a sense of making a contribution. And that is urgent. Yeah.
Professor, the Minister did note that access to education has sort of reached gender parity. But when it comes to gender, you still have over 56,000 more girl childs writing exams than compared to the boys. Is there perhaps something we should read into that? Is there something that can be done perhaps to even it out? Should it even be evened out? What do you think we can attest that to even?
In South Africa, that pattern has been well established for at least the last 10 or 15 years. Young women reach Matric and stay there and succeed. And the explanations for why the boy child is not doing as well vary, but there is a strong sense amongst many people that in some parts of the country, young men leave in order to play an economic role in support of their family. In other parts of the country, and it's not just really parts of the country, and it's not simply an urban-rural divide, but there's a complexity within the rural, there's a complexity within the urban, that young men who feel a sense of despair see little hope in continuing to try when they don't see success as a possibility for them, and they don't see education as a route to making a contribution. So we need to do more with both the boy child and the girl child, and to be sensitive to the contextual challenges that they face in different contexts.
Professor, you work at a university and you would know this quite vehemently. Do you think our students are properly prepared for what some are terming, of course, the fourth industrial revolution, but also just being prepared sufficiently at those higher education institutions for a workplace that has evolved, that will not necessarily be the same in 10, 15 years, and can't necessarily be a situation where you're studying for the same thing our parents were or our grandparents were, etc.?
My view is that if young people have fundamental skills of being able to inquire, to be able to analyze information, to be able to read critically, they will be ready for the range of possibilities that might exist with greater movement towards artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
But the fundamental basis that will get them there is good numeracy skills, confident reading, critical thinking, and it's not only those skills that have to do with hard cognitive work, but it's also skills that have to do with understanding the social environment, understanding that we are facing environmental challenges, understanding that we have a society to build, that we have to approach our fellow citizens with support, with compassion, with respect. So the emphasis on 21st century skills has to be rooted in solid cognitive confidence, as well as in social and emotional strengths.
Professor Mary Metcalfe, appreciate your time this evening. Of course, our breaking news story there with regards to those results, giving us perhaps some insight and some thoughts into how we can help solve South Africa's situation and perhaps get even better results from the 78.2 or 79.4% with regards to the Matric pass rate there. Congratulations to them all who have certainly passed your Matric results, of course, coming through at midnight tonight.